The Blood Street Gang is one of the largest and most dangerous gangs in America. With chapters and sets in major cities all around the country, there are a lot of rappers who have joined up formally or informally. Most of them affiliate before they become rappers, a connection that usually helps them out in the industry since there are so many of them there. Tekashi 6ix9ine is probably the most notorious Blood at the moment due to the current snitching situation he's found himself in. But let's back up a minute. 6ix9ine is actually Daniel Hernandez, a kid from the Bronx, raised by a single mom. To help out financially, he would pick up odd jobs to work after school. After his stepfather was murdered near their home though, he started suffering from poor emotional health and got kicked out of school. With all the free time on his hands, he discovered he could make more money selling drugs and working at the deli. So he started slinging weed and heroin, bringing in enough cash to help with the bills and have a bit left for himself. He was arrested pretty soon after he started, but just got a few days of community service. It wasn't until 2017 that he decided to join up with a gang. Fed up with not getting more famous for his music, Tekashi decided that joining a gang would give him the street cred he needed to push his music career to the top. He got more than he bargained for though, and discovered that life with the 9 Trey gangsters wasn't just about the street cred. Unlike with other sets, a lot of the violence they were doing was against their own members, as everyone tried to show dominance and increase their standing in the gang. It's no wonder that when he was arrested and charged, he was so quick to give up names of fellow 9 Treys. In that set, it's every man for himself, so what did he have to lose? Like 6ix9ine, 21 Savage is another newish rapper with gang ties. He was born in London to British parents, but his mother took him to live with her in Atlanta, Georgia, while his sister stayed in London with their dad. Things didn't go well for him and his mother when they moved over though, and they found themselves in the middle of Atlanta poverty, crime, drug problems, and street violence. After getting suspended for bringing a gun to school, Savage's youth was a series of fights and juvenile detention. By 8th grade, he had dropped out of school completely to sell drugs full time. Spending time on the streets, he got to meet the local Bloods and affiliated soon after. A couple more arrests and the loss of 2 friends later, and the gang life was getting to be too much for the rapper. 21 was eager to leave the gang life behind and turn to music instead, where he found an outlet for his real life mishaps. 21 Savage and 6ix9ine are pretty new rappers though, and there are a lot of older rappers that have been in hip hop and gangs longer than the new guys have been active. How We Do rapper The Game was a rising star in the early 2000s and the driving force behind bringing the West Coast gangster rap scene to mainstream audiences. He was put into G-Unit by Dre, a move that helped cement him into the hip hop world. Growing up in Compton, he was raised by parents who were hardcore CRIP members and grew up in a CRIP-controlled hood called Santana Block. But the rapper calls his family dysfunctional, as his older half-brother was a member of the Cedar Block Piru Bloods, opposing the parents' Crip status. The gang decided to follow his brother's lead instead of the parents and affiliated with the Bloods as a teenager. In 2001, he was shot by rival gang members and ended up in the hospital to recover. He had his brother go out and bring back a ton of classic hip-hop albums to listen to, so while he recovered, he was studying music. By the time he started making music himself, he had a ton of the OGs as influence, which helped him make it big when he started making music. He didn't participate much in the gang life after that, but it came back to bite him when Canada wouldn't let him in for his tour because of his alleged gang ties. Giving up the gang life, or at least most of the gang activities, is something that a lot of rappers do once they make it big. Selling millions of albums is a lot more lucrative than slinging dope, so it makes sense that they'd spend their time in the studio instead of on the street. Gucci Mane is an artist that has made big changes in his life after his Bloods affiliation got him in trouble. But unlike other rappers and gangs, he didn't join up until he was nearly 30. He spent most of his youth selling crack, and then his 20s saw him busy making music, releasing a few mixtapes, and getting some collaborations going. He escaped a murder charge in 2006 and continued focusing on his music. But in 2009, when he was 29, there was some serious beef going on between him and Young Jeezy. Jeezy was affiliated with the Crips, so Gucci felt that the best thing to do was hook up with the Bloods, either to have some backup or to just make Jeezy mad. Gucci started hanging out with the Game and other high-up Bloods for some clout until he finally called a truce between himself and Jeezy. The truce only lasted 3 years before Gucci Mane came back for Jeezy after he brought up old stuff. 30-year-old rapper YG is a famous Blood that's been with the gang for nearly half his life, unlike the gang newcomer Gucci Mane. He was born in Compton in 1990, right during the big days of gang violence in the city. His mother did her best, even moving the family out of Compton, but YG, or Young Gangster, kept going back because it was all he knew. He says, "I was a bad kid. I'd be hanging out, doing crazy shit, gangbanging, robbing. I was doing residential burglaries, breaking into people's houses, and I went to jail for that." His album, My Crazy Life, shows all the stuff that he'd been dealing with through childhood and teen years. He joined up with the Treetop Pirus, a blood set in Compton, and the lyrics in his songs are all about the typical gang activities and the hatred for the rival Crips in the city. Even as he was trying to make it big, his time has been torn between the studio and the streets. He says that even when he was making mixtapes and writing lyrics, he was still very focused on repping the Bloods. But his first album is a good look at what he went through. And as he says, "I'm giving you stories, real life shit. I'm giving you me, YG. My experiences make me who I am. I want people to respect that." For every hardcore gang member though, there's one who simply wants to look the part. And that's where Chris Brown comes in. The former church choir singer turned hip-hop artist is probably most famous for the controversial domestic violence case with then-girlfriend Rihanna. Instead of a hardcore rapper, he ended up looking more like a childish wife beater and found himself beaten down by early days cancel culture while Rihanna shot to stardom. He lost a ton of credibility by beating on a woman, and he was desperate to get back to making music that people would actually buy if they could just look over the fact that he hit Rihanna. In an attempt to recover a bit of street cred and get some backing from fans, Chris started throwing up LA Bloods related gang signs in videos and social media. No one knew if he was actually affiliated since the signs kind of came out of nowhere, but the Blood set Fruittown Piru recognized signs Brown was throwing up in an Instagram post, so he seemed legit. However, the gang was quick to point out to TMZ that Chris is not officially affiliated with the gang. He's not an actual member, but he apparently has the approval of the gang since they haven't said anything about repercussions for using their signs.